Riding a mountain bike and riding an e-bike can be a very different skill on occasion. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is their approach to changes in slope. And as we'll see today, there are many subplots to this story. So today we're talking about slopes, not multiple slopes or hills or mountains, just one simple change in angle. Now, probably one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they're new to e-mountain biking is they pedal along in the flat, in turbo or in trail, and there's a bank ahead and all they think they need to do is the more power you put in, the more support you get out of your e-bike. And that is simply not the case. So let's start off with a couple of examples of just how people get it wrong. Now here we have a flat bit of ground to a very mellow slope, and what people tend to do is they'll approach this slope in the gear which is right for the flat and think that the e-bike will simply propel them up that bank. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm in trail mode, I'm in the middle of the cassette and there's the bank and I'm thinking up we go, and then, oh no! The e-bike won't power you up that bank. So my momentum on this occasion didn't quite get me up and over the top of the climb. And the main reason for this is that I hadn't anticipated the slope ahead of me. Now, if you think about it, during a day out on your e-mountain bike, you're going to be met with all gradients of all shapes and sizes. So number one is to recognize and prepare for the change of slope. So I'm heading along, I see a change in slope. I take my time, drop up maybe 3-4 gears, 4 on this occasion, and simply spin it up the hill. No drama, no standing up or grinding, just let the bike do the work. So start off then on a grippy surface of a constant angle and spend your time working out that relationship between angle and gearing. But what gear? Do you choose a higher gear to get the greatest momentum for the attack? Will the higher gear run out? Do you go for a lower gear but risk spinning out? Should you sit? Oh hell, now that's a subject in itself. Whoa, sitting or standing? Now there's a question. Actually, we've done an entire video on just that subject, which brings me on to the overview of this video here. Now, I want to just be covering today the factors and considerations you need to bear in mind when you're tackling a slope, because a minute ago we talked about angle. Now, angle can actually change considerably in a short space of time. Now let's just change things up for a moment. Now ahead of me is a 20-foot slope. Now your ability to tackle this will have a massive effect on the outcome of the hill. You know, will you be able to conquer this hill or not? Now, as you can see, we have got differences in angle. We've got one constant surface. What kind of body position are we using? What gear are we going to be using? So as you can see, a bank is a very complex subject. So within a few minutes then, we've gone from quite a simple slope to something which is actually quite complicated. However, the fundamentals of slopes are exactly the same. Now, when we're going to tackle this, we're going to bring in another factor when you get more involved in slopes, and that is body position. Now, as you can see, I'm approaching this slope and I'm in a central body position, but as I move up the hill, I get more and more forwards until there's a point where I get out of the saddle and push it up to the top. And that's because if you stay sat down, you're simply going to loop over the back. But how far forwards can you actually go? Now we're on probably the grippiest rock in the world. But even that is a problem if you lean too far forwards. Imagine what it's like on a dirty Welsh bank. Now there's a thought. Which brings me nicely on to the subject of surfaces. Now we are riding here in southern Spain with this rock, this conglomerate style rock, which is probably, like I said, I wasn't kidding when I said it's probably the grippiest surface I've ever ridden on. But close by, there's other things. There is loose dust. There's loose dust on hard surface, which is probably the worst surface to work out. And then of course, back home in Wales, you've got mud, you've got dirt, you've got roots, you've got all kinds of different textures, which you need to identify. And each of those textures and surfaces actually needs a different approach. So remember, we're just talking the factors here in your ability to conquer slopes. We're not actually telling you how to do it, but one of those factors is actually your tyre choice. Now we're looking at such things as the tread pattern and tyre pressure. If you've got too high a tyre pressure in your tyres, then it's unlikely you're going to be getting up some slopes. Obviously, it's related, very closely related to the surface types. You need to be tuned in to get the right tyre for the right surface. For the record, aggressive, soft compound, wide tread pattern, boom. Now mode is actually quite a simple one. Most of the time you can expect to be riding in some of those middle settings such as trail, tour, eMTB or standard mode, until that is you get to the more involved slopes. At this point, I'm actually going to point out the reason I started this video, and that's because recently I took out Rob Warner, who is the voice of downhill. He's actually won World Cup downhill races and is an incredibly good trials rider. And we went out on an e-mountain bike and we did a short slope, and he didn't know the fundamentals, such things as body position or gearing or mode. And it was really what led me to do this video. So hopefully these tips will help you. And you, Rob Warner. Now, momentum in general is your friend on slopes, but sometimes if you've got the grip, you can actually just crawl. Now I'm approaching this slope and I've got all those factors ticked off, but momentum. Now I can see in this instance, I need to quickly get the momentum up to get me up the slope. Something like that. I suppose I could have just taken it easy and gone round that slope. Oh, crikey, line choice. You can see things are getting quite complicated. We're now down to about 10 factors that can affect your ability to tackle a slope. Of course, you could just use walk mode. Probably extreme walk mode, but it certainly beats hiker bike, right? Beauty. Now, once you've started putting all those factors together, you can actually start thinking about linking the slopes and the banks, which then brings us on to the bigger picture of hills and mountains. Actually, you can check out on the EMBN YouTube channel such examples as the rock or the slab. Don't forget to follow us on social media and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Onwards!